AB 651, due to amendments, no longer contains felony provisions that it once had. They were stripped out in the Assembly. California should reject this bill. One other thing about the Oregon law and the California bill. They legalize negligence by doctors via a provision called the good faith standard, which says that no practitioner will be subject to any liability if they act in, quote, good faith, something nearly impossible to disprove, making all the other rules unenforceable. For everything else doctors do, they are liable if they are negligent. But with assisted suicide, even if negligent, practitioners cannot be found violating the law as long as they practice in good faith. There are reported, documented incidents of many safeguards that have been disregarded in Oregon. We could tell you a number of stories that time does not permit, where this safeguard was not respected, or that one. But no penalties have ever been imposed on those practitioners. This bill contains those flaws, and California should reject it.
In looking at the reports of the Oregon experience, I would like to make a couple of specific comments, and I reference the report from 2004. One of my concerns as an oncologist is that almost 80% of the patients who received lethal medications in Oregon in 2004 were cancer patients, but only 22% of the physicians were oncologists. Many were family practitioners who may or may not have had adequate training in palliative care. Oncologists are the physicians best suited to care for cancer patients at the end of life. Furthermore, the reasons for requesting suicide, as was stated previously, was more often autonomy and other issues of this nature, and not things like inadequate pain control and other physical symptoms, which at least raises the question, what percentage of these cases might have been helped by aggressive psychiatric intervention or spiritual counseling? Of greatest concern to me as an oncologist was the statistic in Oregon that the median duration of the patient-physician relationship was 12 weeks. This means that for at least half of the cases, these patients may have had little more than a passing familiarity with the physician who prescribed the lethal medication. In AB 654, I share some of the same concerns. Every day in my practice, I am wrong about prognosis. This bill, AB 654, mandates that a second physician provide a consultation. But the concern that I have is that the second physician may very well make the same error in judgment as the first physician, not because of a lack of information, but because information changes over time. As a hospice medical director, I must certify that a patient is terminally ill with a prognosis of 6 months or less. But when I'm wrong, if the patient is still apparently terminal but has not expired in 6 months, that person can be recertified for another 6 months, or perhaps if their condition improves, they can be graduated from hospice. If my prognosis were wrong in regards to a patient choosing a lethal injection, the patient pays the ultimate penalty. In conclusion, oncologists oppose AB 654 because we believe it is bad law, bad ethics, and bad medicine. It grants us a right that we physicians don't want and our patients don't need. We cannot allow patients to be killed because there are times when we fail to provide the best palliative care. What we need is education of physicians and the public about hospice and palliative care, and a removal of societal and regulatory barriers preventing the more widespread utilization and development. Only then will optimal end-of-life care become a reality in the state.
We also have found that there's great secrecy regarding what is happening in Oregon, and there's really lack of proper oversight of Oregon's assisted suicide by the state health department. There's no real monitoring of Oregon's assisted suicide. The doctors are only present less than 30% of the time when these drugs are taken, and yet the state agency says, well, what happened when they took the drugs? They're only there less than 30% of the time. That's why we have such poor information. Oregon has a mixed end-of-life record, and for instance, the There was a study that came out last year that indicated that between the years 2000 and 2002, that individuals dying in Oregon were twice as likely to be in moderate or severe pain or distress as compared to those that were dying prior to the enactment of the law. There's considerable financial and societal dangers associated with assisted suicide. That's documented in what I have presented to you. I hope that you'll learn from the problems of assisted suicide in Oregon. Assisted suicide is not needed. It puts vulnerable people at risk. California needs to concentrate on improving palliative care and end-of-life programs and not promote unnatural assisted suicide. Thank you.